Among the things that separate us humans from other species, besides these handy-dandy opposable thumbs, is our ability to simultaneously hold in our mind contradictory and conflicting emotions and ideas. We can feel fear, but also hope. We can be afraid of something, but also optimistic that we can get through it. I am afraid of climate change. The greenhouse gases we have pumped into the atmosphere now capture an extra amount of heat energy equivalent to the detonation of 400,000 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs every single day. There are a number of reasons we find ourselves in this climate predicament, but today I want to talk about one of them. Capitalism and the pursuit of profit, as much as any other factors, have caused the climate crisis. Over the last century, our economy has grown exponentially, as has our stock market. But this remarkable economic growth was fueled largely by the use of cheap and abundant fossil energy, the emissions of which have changed our climate. But what if we could take that awesome power of capitalism and the profit motive and redirect it away from contributing to the climate problem and instead harness that power to help solve it? My name is Roger Ballentine, and I am a climate capitalist. Let me talk for a minute about how we got to where we are. Capitalism is the pursuit of profit and wealth through the marketplace. Companies make products and services, and if what they earn from selling those products and services is more than what it costs to produce them, they make a profit. And companies can do this calculation because all the things they need to use and consume to make their products have numbers associated with them that we call prices. Now, in the perfect market of your college textbooks, one assumes that the price of something more or less fully reflects the costs associated with producing it. If, however, something is priced below its actual costs, too much of it will be consumed, and this is called a market failure. Let me give you an example. Over the last 100 years, the price of energy produced from coal has been low, and we have used a lot of it. The cost of that coal power, however, was actually much greater. The emissions from burning coal have literally consumed our atmosphere. But to the buyers of that coal power, those costs were not reflected in its price, and we used too much of it. The International Monetary Fund estimates that the total unpriced cost of carbon emissions from our use of fossil fuels is $6 trillion. Climate change is the greatest market failure in the history of capitalism. Now, don't get me wrong. Capitalism has produced a lot of wonderful things for our society, but protecting the planet is not one of them. Our traditional response to this problem of capitalism causing environmental harm has been to try to restrict and constrain the profit motive through mandates and prescriptions and fines and even criminal penalties. We call this type of regulation command and control. Now, if any of you have small children like I do, you know that trying to command and control someone can lead to, shall we say, an adversarial dynamic. Confronted with commands and controls, industry invested in lawyers and lobbyists and even politicians, that may be a different talk, to resist these constraints on their profit maximization. This dynamic of command and control regulation on the one hand and the hard-headed resistance of many in industry on the other hand has played itself out in the halls of Congress and state houses and courtrooms across the country. And it has led far too many to assume that if something's good for the environment, well, it must be bad for business, and vice versa. Now, there will always be bad actors. We will always need some tough environmental laws to deter the worst kind of behavior. And yes, we continue to have a market failure in that we don't fully price carbon emissions, which is why I support a carbon tax. But as important as they are, we need to think beyond these traditional policy responses to the problem, which are largely focused on deterring the corporate behavior we don't want. And instead, we need to think more about how to encourage the corporate behavior we do want. We need to think about how to align the power of competition and innovation and profit-seeking and even greed with addressing the climate problem. Instead of investing in lawyers and lobbyists to resist change, we want companies to invest in smart executives and engineers whose job it is to innovate for better environmental performance. What I do for a living is help companies outcompete their peers and make more money by reducing their carbon impact and bringing carbon solutions to the marketplace. If I'm successful, my clients make more money, and the world's a better place. This is what climate capitalism is all about, taking what capitalism does best, pursuing profit, and aligning that with mitigating climate change. Let me talk about why I think this is realistic. The fact is that today there's more money to be made in addressing the climate problem than there is in continuing to make it worse. Next year, the market for renewable energy will be $800 billion. The World Bank estimates that between now and 2030, there will be $23 trillion in profitable, climate-friendly investment opportunities in the developing world alone. And we're beginning to see this climate solutions marketplace become a reality. Today, twice as many Americans work in the wind industry as in coal mining. The global clean energy industry today is worth about $1.5 trillion, which is roughly twice the size of the global airline industry. And last year, around the world, we installed twice as much renewable energy as fossil energy. In fact, we installed more solar power alone than all fossil energy. I could go on and on. The fact is that we are just beginning to scratch the surface of the money-making potential in addressing climate change. The other reason that I think capitalism is realigning towards addressing the climate problem has to do with the way the market values companies and sets stock prices. A company's stock price is not just about how good it is at cutting its costs and increasing its sales and making a profit. Tesla is among the highest priced stocks in the marketplace. It has never made a profit. A number of factors go into setting stock prices and corporate value. For example, the market wants to see that companies have smart leaders with vision. In the case of Elon Musk, Wall Street clearly sees him as a visionary leader who sees trends and opportunities before others. Climate change is a major trend and a major opportunity, and Tesla is seen as bringing products to market squarely aimed at that climate opportunity. Corporate leaders who have a strategy for climate change will be seen as smarter and more visionary than those that do not. Another thing the market looks for in a company is whether it is anticipating and has a strategy for mitigating risk. Climate change itself and future policies aimed at addressing it are very real risks to corporate assets and markets. Companies that are reducing their reliance on fossil fuels and innovating to compete in a carbon-constrained world will be less at risk than companies that are not doing those things. The market also understands the importance of strong human capital. The ability to attract and retain talented employees is a critical factor in corporate success. And companies will increasingly find that the best and brightest MBAs, engineers, and other employees want to work for companies that are on the right side of the climate challenge. Bottom line is that stock prices, profits, other critical indicators of corporate value will be higher for companies that are taking climate change seriously. So I am optimistic. I'm optimistic because corporations are good at pursuing profits, and there are profits to be had in solving the climate problem. I'm optimistic because companies that are mitigating climate risk and seizing climate opportunity will be more valuable than companies that are not. And I'm optimistic because of all of us. What we choose to buy, where we choose to work, how we choose to invest our 401ks, and how we choose to share our choices and values with others will have a real impact on corporate behavior. And I'm optimistic, I can't believe I'm saying this, because of millennials. Well, wait, now, I am not for participation trophies. I do not do Snapface or Instabook. But I do know that half the world's population is under the age of 30. Last year, the World Economic Forum surveyed 30,000 millennials from around the world and asked them about their greatest concerns. Number one, by a significant margin, was climate change. And these are the customers, the consumers, the employees, the executives, the investors the 21st century companies will have to attract. The millennials, God help us all, will inherit the earth. Let me end by invoking a fictional avatar of corporate greed, Gordon Gekko. Gordon Gekko was the ruthless financier in Oliver Stone's 1987 movie Wall Street. Wall Street was a polemic takedown of the worst excesses of capitalism. In the movie's most iconic scene, Gekko, played by Michael Douglas, gives a speech to a room full of his investors in which he says, "Greed is right. Greed works. Greed cuts through, clarifies, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit." The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. But let me amend that slightly. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that green greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Thank you very much.